Welcome back to another episode of Holy Shift, episode 8, Adrian.
I love it. Well,
I know.
okay, so 8. This should be an episode specifically about women. Just think
Mhm,
about International Women's Day is on
mhm.
March 8th. Like the fact that 8 looks like an infinity sign, like there's symbolically, I feel like this 8th episode holds a lot of weight. It's a lucky number
I
in Eastern culture.
I also love that you use the word wait because that's exactly what we're going to talk about today.
Welcome to Holy Shift, the podcast where medicine meets mystery and healing becomes whole.
We're your hosts, Taylor Sappington,
And Adrian Irizarry.
two clinicians, herbalists, and mystics who believe the old ways and modern medicine were never meant to live apart.
This is a space for the witches in the broom closet, the healers afraid to leave their mark, the world walkers who know they don't fit into the systems they were handed.
Here we go first, sharing our stories, our medicine, and the truth about what it really takes to reclaim your power, your health, and your place in the world.
Because the safest, most radical thing you can be is yourself.
This is your permission.
This is your portal.
This is your holy shift. Adrian and I both recently had shopping experiences that I think left us in a bit of a blunder internally, where we started our conversation this morning talking about pants.
Yes, we were sending voice notes back and forth to each other about pants. And originally we had like a different topic in mind for this conversation. And we were like, no, we're both fired up about the fucking pants. Let's talk about pants.
Okay, so where does this start? I live in Florida, and obviously we're going through our version of fall/winter/ back to summer, then back to like fall/winter. And when you live in Florida long enough, you understand that you do need a few pair of pants, for the weather. And I don't have any. I don't know how else to put it. I have dresses, I have shorts, I have leggings, but something about wearing tight clothing here, I'm like, no, I need something that breathes a little bit more. So I went shopping yesterday to pick a few pair of pants out. And I am, for reference, 5'7", 140 something pounds, 42, 45. It fluctuates, 140 something pounds. I have an inseam of 34 inches. So like, do that math. I have a cup size that is growing. We could talk about the whole vitality piece of that at some point. Your boobs can actually get bigger when you chill
Yes.
the fuck out. It's kind of wild,
Yes, I
and
can explain why.
and you settle back into your system. Well, maybe you should explain why right now. Let's just pause here. Why do your boobs get bigger when you're not stressed?
Because they sag and they
Oh,
get
good.
smaller.
This is not as exciting. Oh, okay.
No,
Great.
hold on. They sag and they get smaller when you're chi deficient. So when
Yeah.
your vital life force is overspent. And I think about this a lot when I hear mothers go, "Oh, I breastfed my babies and my boobs shrank." And it's like, "Oh, that means that you were essentially overdrafting your bank account when you think about like vital energy in your system and it like did too much of a draw on your
Yeah.
system. And so things began to shrink. So when you chill the fuck out, as Taylor said, and you have more pauses in your day, you're not stressed the hell out, you're not burning the candle at both ends, your boobs can actually get bigger. Like I've had people, and okay,
I
for
don't know what
reference,
to do with myself though. Okay. We're size B, like B cup, right? I'm not talking like C, D, E, F. So all of
which
you
is
with,
me.
yeah, all of you with very large tatas, I totally understand you rolling your eyes at me. Like understandable, but B is big for me. I'm like, what am I doing here? What I have cleavage. What do I do with this?
Well, and I have a similar kind of experience. And I was going to say, for reference, I'm 5'4". I am 100 and don't want to talk about it pounds because I'm still postpartum, right? Like I'm like newly coming out of that postpartum. And unfortunately, I'm one of those people that when you breastfeed, you don't lose weight.
Yeah, I
So
was like that.
like I just like want to presence that for people who are like, oh, like I thought I was supposed to lose weight. Yeah, no. For a lot of us, that doesn't work that way. Prolactin can actually put weight on your body because it's
Yeah.
a matter of making sure that you have enough resources so baby doesn't die. Okay. It's an evolutionary mechanism. So please do not browbeat yourself if you're listening to this and you are breastfeeding and you haven't lost an ounce. I held on to exactly the amount of weight that I gained during my pregnancy in order to ensure, 30 to 40 pounds gained during pregnancy, depending on where your BMI is at when you start, is generally a good place to be in terms of making sure that you have enough resources on and in your system for breastfeeding.
Yep.
So I did not lose a freaking ounce. And I was out there any of you have seen my social media? Like, I had my son in my bag.
You were
And
active.
walking and I was lifting things with the baby on my back and you know what I mean? So I wasn't just sitting and eating bonbons as an older generation would say. I was active and I still didn't lose an ounce. And so it wasn't until I started decreasing the number of feedings with my son after he turned a year that I finally started seeing the needle move. This does play into our conversation about pants and body dysmorphia, which is where we're going with all of this. But for reference, I'm 5'4" and I'm, about 20 pounds over where I would like to be. I've lost 12. I'm very proud of that because it's come off gradually. It's come off in a healthy way. I'm headed in the right direction. So now everything that I've been doing with healthy diet and moving my body and trying to be intentional about managing my stress, which is hard in my household, is finally starting to actually look like it's paying dividends, which is great. So back to the boobs. I have never been a small human. I've always had huge boobs, like D, double D. And then after I had my first child, I was in the triple DE range. At this point, I am terrified to do bra fitting and figure out how big I am. I really think once I finish nursing, I'm going to land in the EF category, which is just really, but people ask me if I've had a boob job.
Okay. Because of how large they are?
No, not just that, but because how lifted they are.
Oh, okay.
And it has to do with chi.
Okay.
So I can tell when I have overburnt my candle because they start sagging and getting flabbier and they're way more in the way. And I feel like they're choking me when I'm trying to sleep. Breastfeeding boobs will do that to me too.
Yeah.
But when my chi is at an appropriate level, meaning I'm creating appropriate balance between rest and play and work and all of those things, I get asked, have you had a boob job? Who is your doctor? Your boobs look fabulous. And I'm like, none of the above. I've just been eating and taking care of myself.
Yeah. Amazing what that will do, won't it?
Right? It's wild.
Yeah. So I swear back to the pants, right?
Yeah.
Shopping.
All part of this.
Actually, to carry on or to dovetail off of that too, this is a beautiful segue into the fact that as women, because I was saying to Adrian, I'm like, I have been literally a size 0, a size 2, a size 4. I sat at a size 4 for a really long time. I've been a size 6. 8 is where I quote unquote max out most of the time. Like that's my largest size, if you will. And and that's Adrian's right. But it's so interesting because one of the things that I did not know prior to having children is that as women, I'm going to use the word age, and I hate the whole narrative around aging, so I'm using it for ease of conversation. As women age, their hips spread.
Whether you've had kids or not.
Now, having kids might accelerate it a little bit, right? But your hips spread, which means I no longer fit into a size 0, which is really not healthy for my stature at 5'7", right? Like I don't fit into a size 2, arguably not healthy for my build at 5'7" either. I don't fit into a size 4 anymore. I mean, I'm now looking at a size 10, and I really had to sit with myself yesterday because I was so upset.
Yeah. but this is normal. And this is why we wanted to have this conversation, because these are the internal monologues that we have with ourselves, and where that little inner critic asshole starts talking in our head about, well, you shouldn't have eaten that thing 2 days ago, or
Yeah.
you shouldn't this, or, you really have to get off your lazy ass and do something, or like we start
Yes.
saying this shit to ourselves.
Yes.
And the thing is, like, when you are getting close to your bleed, you could gain 5 to 7 pounds of water weight.
And let me frame this. I was on day 5. So I don't know if I picked the best day to go shopping. I was still spotting, right?
Mhm.
Like I was still cramping. There are conditions that I was like, maybe this wasn't the best day to choose to go look at myself in a dressing room mirror under dressing room lighting. Nonetheless, we can talk about that. But to your point, I fluctuate throughout the month too. Like I have a week and a half where I'm a completely different size than I am, the other, 2.5 weeks out of the month.
Oh gosh, yes. Well, and that's actually, like, even though the head game is harder going to a dressing room during that part of the month, I find that it's actually a healthier time to select pants.
That's fair.
Because the rest of the month, they're going to fit, number one. And number two, when they feel loose, you feel good about yourself.
Which they will, I guarantee you. And the shorts that I tried on were a size 10 and they were a mom cut. Guys, I am short torso. For everyone in the fashion industry, have you forgotten about us? Like, have you forgotten about the long-legged, short torsoed people? Like, none of the pants today work. They don't look good. They don't feel good. They aren't healthy for people who have a short torso to wear high-waisted pants. If you think about what it does to the digestive tract, it cuts blood flow off. It creates gastrointestinal issues. Right. So I had to stop wearing leggings that were high waisted because I always felt like shit 4 or 5 hours into the day. I'm like, why does my stomach hurt? Oh, because I'm cutting blood flow off.
Yes, I had the same problem. Well, and I am short statured, short torsoed, everything. Okay, just picture Brunhilde. That is what Adrienne looks like. She is short. She has big boobs. She's thick in the middle. She's got big hips and a big ass. Like, I am round and curvy. I'm an earth element in, like,
Yes.
the absolute, like, when you look at Chinese medicine, I am totally earth. I am Mama Gaia in all of the ways, with everything being big and curvy. Thank God my husband loves that. But I have a hard time finding clothes too, because by the time I get it to fit my ass, it doesn't fit my waist, or at least that historically was the problem. Now I'm dealing with loose postpartum skin that is, like, trying to figure out what the hell it's doing. I have seen some of it tighten, but, like, it's a process, right? And, like, we have bounce back culture that puts so much pressure on women to get themselves back into this, like,
there's no data. Do you know? I don't know specifically who put the data out. I think it's a conglomeration of different people putting the data out. And then there's, like, obviously meta-analysis of the data that's being put out. But the time frames for restoration of women postpartum is actually significantly longer than this bullshit of 9 months in, 9 months out. The last thing that I read, it was 2 years for women to hormonally reset. Indigenous cultures knew this because they would not allow their mothers to birth children until the 3rd-year mark. Okay, so it's 2 years to hormonally reset. It's either 3 or 4 to physically reset, right? And then it's 5 to recenter your identity of who you are.
Yes. Oh, and I just want to say, yes, she just described my whole experience. So at the time of this recording, my son is 13, almost 14 months. I am down to 1 nursing session a day, but man, that kid would nurse until 5 if I let him. So, like, my body is slowly shifting. But I can tell you, in that first year, the first 3 months were, like, completely different than 4 to 6 months. 4 to 6 months was completely different than that 7 to 9. I got really symptomatic again between
Mhm.
7 and 9. And then 9 to 12, I started feeling a little more like a normal person. But honestly, my energy to be able to like do more than do a lot of walking with my son on my back, which I
Mhm.
mean, that's weight bearing activity. I was walking around with 20 pounds on my back, and I did a lot of things with 20 pounds extra on my body because I strapped that kid to me and took him everywhere. But I didn't really feel like I could tackle any sort of exercise or anything beyond just what the bare minimum that my life could give me until I was 11 months
Yeah.
postpartum. And even now, I still get tired a little more
Mhm.
easily than I did before. And I'm honoring that and I'm sitting with that, but like it still doesn't change the mental difficulty that
Mhm.
we have when we're looking at ourselves in that mirror in shitty changing
Lighting.
room lights. And we're like, what the fuck? Not a single thing I brought into this room fits me.
Not only that, it's the size of a shoebox. I'm like, could I get
Mhm.
any closer to the mirror? I don't really need to be any closer to the mirror. What I need is to be able to back up. I feel like I get better perspective when I came home and put all of the clothes back on just to
Mhm.
make sure I felt good in my full length mirrors, at a reasonable distance. And so that so I liked the way that they looked in a different setting. I felt a million times better doing that too, like coming home, utilizing natural lighting, giving myself a little bit of space, and just accepting the fact that like my body is changing and I eat well, I hydrate, I spend a ton of time outside, I vary my activity. Like I'm doing all of the things that one would need to do to keep her body functional. At this point in my life, at almost 40, my focus is functionality, but that doesn't mean
Mhm.
the voice of physique doesn't find her way through.
Oh, and she's noisy.
She's mean.
She is mean. Like I used to be a competitive kickboxer, so like
Yes.
I'm no stranger to aggressively working my body out.
Yeah.
I am no stranger to the rigid diet and weight constraints for something like that.
I
I
just
always,
don't. Adrian, I don't want to give up my sweet potato brownies
and you shouldn't have
or my
to.
honey in my tea
Yeah.
or my avocado toast as I flip my hair. Okay. Like, I don't want to give any of that up.
And you shouldn't have to because nothing that you talked about is like nasty processed boxed stuff.
No, and in general, like I think there's this place where women get to where they're like, in order for me to look like this, I have to
Price
forego
everything.
this. And I say this to my husband all the time. I'm like, well, I guess I'm just gonna learn to love the size and shape that I'm in, which is not big. Like I'm not a big woman. I refuse to revoke joy from my life.
Well, and that's it. Like when I talk to people, so, for people who are unfamiliar with my background, I have a Chinese nutritional therapy background as well as herbalism, et cetera, et cetera. So I talk a lot about food with my clients. And one of
Okay.
the first questions they ask me is, well, what do I have to give up? Because we have this really rigid understanding in Western medicine or the Western world
Yeah.
that is driven by an allopathic narrative that it has to be black or white. And the
Mhm.
thing is, like, really 80% compliance will give you results. And so when I talk to people about things, I'm like, well, if you can completely eliminate dampening foods like dairy, refined sugar, alcohol, that great, gluten,
Mhm.
if you can take those things out, if you have dampness in your body presentation, that's going to help exponentially move you towards your goal.
Yeah.
But if you once in a while have something, that's fine. Because just think about it. We're, when it comes to certain things, we're just like big teenagers. If somebody tells you no, that's the thing you're going to fixate on. Whereas if you allow yourself to actually live like a human being and be like, oh, I haven't had this thing in a month. I'm going to sit and have that thing. You're going to be okay. Like,
Mhm.
I am the poster child of dampness, and I will allow myself to have some cheese.
Yeah.
but I offset it with something, right? Like I'll give myself several days before I have it again, or I'll have hot tea with it so that there's more digestive chi to be able to deal with this heavy food going into my stomach. I create balance. But
Do
it
you
doesn't mean you have
remember?
to deprive yourself.
Do you remember when you sent me Job's tears?
Yes.
God, do you want to talk about a massive clean out? Can you explain what they are?
So Job's tears are really effective
Really effective.
at moving dampness out of the body. So dampness happens for a variety of reasons. You may see it in things like I have to take my rings off at the end of the day because my fingers will be so swollen, my rings won't come off. That was a really interesting conversation when my husband and I first got married. Here we are. We've just newly exchanged vows. He's got his ring on. He's going to bed. And I go to take my ring off, and he looked like I had kicked him right where the sun don't shine. And he goes, "You're taking your ring off? I just put it there." And I was like, "Yes, you're going to have to cut it off tomorrow morning if I don't do this." And it wasn't until that moment that I realized how much my fingers swelled at night, right? Like, because it was just something I always did and I didn't think anything of it. So that's an example. If you
What
get
about
sock
socks?
lines,
Yep.
yeah, sock
Mhm.
lines, that's another really common one too, where you end up with like maybe your leg isn't like bulging out over the top of your sock, but you take your sock off
The
at the end of the
indents.
day and you have indents. Yeah, that is an indication of dampness. If you have edema in your lower extremities, which is a little bit more severe presentation, there's a whole bunch of reasons that dampness can show up. It can be from overwork and overexertion. It can be from iron deficiency, blah, 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 blah. But there's
Your environment.
your environment. Yep. Absolutely. If you're in a damp environment, a lot of times I see, especially in New England, a lot of people have some level of dampness going on because of the weather here. So that can affect how your clothes fit from day to day. It affects all kinds of things. But anyway, so Job's tears, I sent Job's tears to Taylor because she needed to move dampness out of her system. Well, boy, did it move things. It's very effective.
I was like preparing it like you would prepare quinoa, you know what I mean? Like I was like soaking it and then prepared it and I was like, I'm gonna just build a beautiful bowl out and Job's tears is gonna be my base. And like I have never regretted something so dearly in my life. I was like, Adrian's like, you should have started with a quarter cup. I'm like, we are about 4 times over that limit and I will be clearing heat for the foreseeable future.
You felt a lot better afterwards, but it was like pretty intense when you were in it.
Yes. So, I imagine I went through 3 pant sizes that week too. Like what happens when we effectively metabolize the fluids in our body? I'm a bit more yin deficient and I have a tendency to deal with a lot of stagnation of fluids in my system, especially the later I get into my cycle, so again, healthier time to go pick out pants, maybe physically, but mentally, I'm like, what am I doing here?
Yeah. Well,
So.
and that's part of why we wanted to do this episode, because this is a really big deal.
Yeah.
And it varies by manufacturer. It
Literally.
varies by like what it's made out of. It varies by like there is nothing standard. Like, oh my gosh, I get so irritated when my husband like walks into the store and he goes, "Do you like these jeans?" And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "Okay." And he finds a size and he takes it home and they fucking fit. Every damn time because they have standard waist and leg measurements. Women's sizes are frigging ridiculous. So, now fast forward to where I'm at right now. I'm also the poster child of dampness, right? So like that fluctuates and I'm postpartum and I have loose skin. And so like some of my pants fit, some of them definitely do not. Some of them fit, but they don't look like they did before. And so like I need to completely re-envision what the hell I'm going to wear from my belly button down. And I have no waist. So like high-waisted stuff is great for the skin, but it's not great for anything else when you are short-waisted and a short human.
Yep.
Oh, I was told by one of my children the other day that I've officially moved into the old woman camp because I was
Oh.
wearing skinny jeans.
Oh, okay.
I was like, oh, I did not realize these were out. Okay, awesome. Ugh. So anyway, dressing my body is frustrating. And I was like, yes, I walked into that same dressing room, Taylor. I didn't walk out with a damn thing. And I tried really hard to not have to scoop my stomach up off the floor because I felt like my heart like bottomed out
Yeah. Do
because
you,
I have lost weight and then I couldn't fit into shit.
Adrian? Yesterday, it's like I put these like athleisure pants on, if you will, and they have the crisscross. So anyone who's short waisted will understand like crisscross or V waisted looks great on us, right? But it has to be low rise in order for it to sit properly, not high waisted. Like, and this was a high waisted, I only found this out as I put them on, right? A high waisted crisscross, type of waistline. And I was like, I look like a sack of potatoes. Like it didn't matter like what angle I took. I was like on the side and then I was like, look at my booty. And then I was like, this nothing about turning around in this dressing room right now, regardless of the angle I'm looking at, makes me feel good. I'm going to take these off and put them back because it just did not suit my figure. And I think part of what really got to me yesterday, I said this to my girlfriend that I was with, right? I was like, clothing in the United States, it may be different elsewhere. Clothing in the United States is literally not designed for female bodies. Like it is not designed for women's bodies. Like it's almost as if designers expect women to look like they're 16 from the time they're 16 to the time that they're 66, and beyond. And it just doesn't, bodies don't work that way. Just like the seasons change outside of us and the picture of nature changes outside of us, like our bodies change. And I said to my girlfriend, I'm like, we as women have always been trained, conditioned, brainwashed, if you will, to make ourselves smaller.
Mm-hmm.
And this is in every way. It could be physically, it could be emotionally, it could be vocally, it could be energetically, right? As little girls, we're praised for being quiet. We're praised for being seen and not heard, right? For sitting still and being good, whatever the fuck that means, right? We're told not to interrupt people. We're told to not be bossy. We're told to not take up too much room. So as you're going through, and I think you can speak to this on your own personal level too, as you're going through this transition where you're like, huh, this is me, hear me roar, take me or leave me. I don't really like, you like me or you don't like me. What you see is what you get, right? It's always from a place of like kindness and intention, but it's also from a place of it's me before we at this point,
Mm-hmm.
folks. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
just how this is going to operate, right? So when you finally get to this place in life where you're like, I like who I am and I want to take up room and I want to speak and be heard and I want to bring you into my world in a deep, powerful way. And then you go shopping and you have this response reaction. You're like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
Right? Like, what the fuck is going on? And there's that conditioned part of you that's like, yeah, you're getting real comfy here, but how does this feel?
Yes.
Because you're taking up room in a physical way too.
Yes. Well, and anybody who's had children who's trying to find a shirt these days,
Oh, we
like
don't have
what
full shirts.
what the hell? Like I did a reel about this a little while ago. I was like, where the fuck is
Hilarious.
the rest of my shirt?
Yeah.
Like, where is it? Because you, you don't want things that are above the fupa when you have had a child. Like, I really resonate with what you were saying too about like taking up space because I just think about my late 20s body, which, could be a little more resilient than my early 40s body. I'm healthier
Yeah.
in my early 40s than I was then. My energy is better. My digestion is better. My stools are better. My headaches aren't present. They're like literally a non-issue now. And I was like a migraine ridden human back then. So like I look at all of those things and I go, wow, well done, body. Like you just birthed a child and you're like more vibrant than you were after you birthed your last child when you were in your late 20s. Like go, body, go.
Yeah.
You were able to nurse your son past a year old, like yay, body. And then you go to the dressing room and all of the voices of all of the people who've ever judged your body like start speaking in your mind. When I was divorced and a single mom and I like dared to step my toe back into the dating pond, the first person that I went on a lunch date with was like, you have a nice face, but if you do a few more sit-ups, then maybe, and I was like, excuse me? And he was like, yeah, he goes, you're just like loose in the belly. And I was like, have you never seen a woman who's ever given birth to a child before? Because I was a single mom at that point. I was running. I was like athletic. Like I wasn't unhealthy in any way, maybe other than overworking myself. But like my physical body was in pretty good shape. And he's like, yeah, he's like, you're just like loose. And the thing is, like, as you were talking, that conversation like totally came to the forefront of my mind because those are the kinds of things that like we're told we're not supposed to take up too much space. We're told we're supposed to look a certain way. Like I saw this meme the other day that put one of the Golden Girls next to, I'm trying to remember the actress now, but they are both 53 and like we all know the Golden Girls, know them, love them, right? And then this actress being 53, she looked like she was in her early 30s. And it's like there's this mindset that we have to stay a certain size, look a certain way, fit our body into a certain mold in order to be acceptable. But if you look back at ancient times, the goddess of Willendorf had rolls for days. Like, and she was revered as like the measuring stick for beauty. Like if you look at a lot of the portrayals of Venus, also, she is a voluptuous woman.
Yeah.
And I keep trying to tell myself that when I'm in the nasty fluorescent lights and I'm like staring at myself in the mirror and I'm like, okay, I'm just the goddess of Willendorf. It's fine. I've given birth to 2 babies. I'm in my 40s. I am the goddess of Willendorf. Damn it. Like, but you have to like challenge this internal
dialogue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's been put there because of social conditioning.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. This just proves, I'm sure many of you listening can relate, that these messages they don't go away when we grow up. And I'm sure many of you grew up in a time where mom was Jenny Craig, Weight Watchers, salad, obviously aerobics, which there's nothing wrong with aerobics, right? But like there is a very specific tone to that generation, lack of acceptance of self to this day, right? Like there are large parts of conversation when it comes to certain family members where it's like, she looks good, doesn't she? She's lost some weight. And I'm like, we're still here, guys. And I actually think, I would love to hear your thoughts, that being incredibly small in your elderly years is actually a sign of fragility.
Yes, there are fewer resources, and a lot of times those bodies tend to be a lot more prone to osteopenia and osteoporosis.
Yep.
And, breaking a hip is significantly more real.
That will kill you, by the way.
Absolutely.
9 times out of 10, it's the infection that coincides the fracture of the hip that occurs. But the number of people that I saw when I was working in hospitals that passed because of a hip fracture because they fell.
Yeah.
It's usually a urinary tract infection.
Yes.
That kills you.
Yep.
Like the recurrent infections. So it's interesting because that doesn't mean that I am a proponent of obesity or being overweight. But I think this notion that like, eat like a bird, you know what I mean? And like, don't do this past a certain age. It's like, but why? Like to your point, Adrienne, don't we want to be resourced enough to feel, I don't know about you, but in another 25 years, I still want to be able to do all the things that I'm doing today.
Yes. And for me, that quality of life is the most important part. So like, do I have some weight to lose? Yes, I know I do because I've been breastfeeding, but I have reached a mental place that, even when I was competitively kickboxing and I had to make weight, I always ended up fighting somebody Taylor's size who towered over me and had a reach advantage because I walked around fully toned and trained
Mm-hmm.
at about 150 pounds, between 150 and 160 pounds. I never got under 150, even with a weight cut. It would be really damn hard for me to get under 155. And I was running, I was lifting, I was spending hours in the gym, honing my craft.
Yeah.
And like, that's just where my body wanted to stay. The smallest I've ever been in my life was a size 4. I was running a lot. It was right during that same time frame that guy told me I should do sit-ups. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was during that same time frame. I was running to deal with anger and frustration because it was either that or it was not going to be pretty. And I got down to about a size 4. But I was 150 pounds. So like, I just am not meant to be, my body set point does not want me to be smaller than that. And at 150 pounds, my mom was asking me if I was eating.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because I look back at the times with which, like, I was smaller than I am now in postpartum. I was so hard on myself too in postpartum. Again, though, single mom going
Yep.
through such vitriol. That's another conversation for another day, right? Working full time post C-section. And of course, when you're in it, you're way too close to it to see it. But I look back at pictures of myself and I was like, I was so tiny, right? And I look back at all of the chapters of my life where I was so tiny. And you know what coincided with being so tiny? So sick. I was also so sick. Like I had unhealthy relationships. I allowed people that I shouldn't have allowed into my space and energy around me. I was offering up resources to people and organizations, work that I didn't have to give. I was in survival mode, and I now can see it written all over me. And if that's the price that I have to pay to be that size, no, thank you, good riddance.
Yeah, that's how I feel too. Like a few years ago, mentally had to come to grips with the fact that a size 8 was my skinny pants.
Yeah.
And I was never going to be smaller than that. And now that I've had my son and I'm in my 40s, I'm beginning to think that like a 10 might be my skinny pants. And I might just sit between a 10 and a 14, not because of my weight, but because of how my hips have spread. Well, and skin. There's that too. And my husband asked me the other day, he goes, would you consider a tummy tuck? And he said it from a good place.
Yeah.
He said it because he can see my face when I look at where the skin sits in the mirror. And he's like, would you feel better if you didn't have the extra skin? And I said to him, I was like, I'm so torn because the social conditioned side of me feels like I would feel better in my body without this like extra pouch of skin around my belly. But the Chinese medicine practitioner in me goes, but I have so many meridians and points in that area that I need as a celiac person to feel good and have my digestion work right. And I don't know if I would dare chance it like that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have that kind of communication in my body so that I could live vibrantly.
Yeah.
And he goes, I didn't think about it that way. And I said,
people don't.
So it's, it's like a catch-22. Like, does it feel good that I have to like wipe the sweat from underneath my fupa? Absolutely not. It makes me feel really gross. But at the same time, I can eat better and sleep better and function better and digest better when I'm able to essentially avail myself of the beauties that acupuncture offers me. And I don't know if I'm willing to chance it.
Would you consider that, and I'm saying this as somebody who's had plastic surgery and who's fucked with her meridians, between a C-section and a boob job, I have fucked with my meridians, and also having a history of celiac, you know what I mean? I'm so positive that my C-section did so many detriments to my digestion. I still, to this day, I do soft tissue work. I cup the area. Like adhesions and scar tissues are not a problem for me. Like it's more or less functionality because nerve restoration in that area took a incredibly long time. And I feel like we don't talk about that with new moms enough too. Like I literally would go to the bathroom and couldn't feel myself wipe for over a year after having my son via C-section.
Yeah. And it's really common. And they're like, I've had people come into my practice that until they start doing pelvic steaming, they have very little, if any, sensory connection with when their bladder is full.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you cut the nerve. They cut the nerve and then the nerve has to restore. But how are you restoring anything when you have 8 weeks to acclimate to becoming a mom and then you have to go back to work? Like, tell me who doesn't operate in survival mode for the first how many years of having a child? But the question I was going to ask, because I reflect on this a lot personally, is would you feel like you are making yourself smaller by having the C-section to fit a certain standard?
Ooh, that's a good question. Not to fit the standard, no,
Okay.
because my hips are still wide, my rib cage is still wide, my boobs are still wide. I'm not looking at manipulating my body to fit into a standard.
Yeah.
It's more how my genes feel on my body and how, like, when I look in the mirror, I've always been fixated on my stomach because it has never had anywhere to go because I am not a long-waisted, tall person in
I
any
know.
stretch of the imagination. Like, I'm proud of my 30-inch inseam because, like, without it, I would probably be barely 5 feet.
Yeah.
So, but like when I had my son, like he was all straight out in front because I literally have nowhere for him to go.
Talk about uncomfortable too. Oh my God, being
Yeah.
pregnant and short-waisted. Yeah, you want to talk about really screwed up digestion?
Yes, and being able to breathe. And like
Oh,
I walked my whole pregnancy,
you
right?
have
So
to.
like my husband and I are like walking, and he goes, "Man," he goes, "You're really huffing and puffing today." And I was like, "Yeah," because he turned and he's like pushing on my lungs.
I literally have nowhere for him to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like for me, it's more how I feel in my skin and how I feel in my clothes
Yeah.
kind of question. And it's for me and not for anyone else,
Okay.
which is why I roll the idea around in my head because like I have so much skin that like I'm not a candidate for a mini tuck. It would
Yeah.
be
A full
like,
duck.
yeah. And like that scares me a little bit. You know,
Fair.
like there's little pieces of me like if I get heavier as I get older, like what happens to the skin when that, you know what I mean? So like I just have too many questions like that. Like I would rather figure out how to comfortably dress this body I have. But like I told my husband the other day, I was like, my goal weight is between 160 and 170 because I feel like as somebody who is not competitively kickboxing and doesn't have a drive to fight people anymore, I think
Fair.
I just like was more livery when I was younger and now like I want to move my body because it feels good, but I don't feel like I need to be aggressive about it anymore where
Mhm.
before I had that aggressive energy to burn.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing for me too is I have recently, I'm going to say in the last year, gotten in with a really incredible pelvic floor therapist. And it's not just like, let me go in and do an adjustment internally and do an adjustment externally and you're on your way. Like, sure, that could work for some people, but that's never really something that served my body. And in working with my pelvic floor therapist, now all of these muscles that haven't activated and fired the appropriate way are finally activating and firing the appropriate way, which means I'm growing muscle.
Yes.
Okay, and that's a whole nother thing, especially when you've spent the majority of your life in a stress-based state and you're actually deteriorating muscle and you're only becoming toned because the body is pulling resources that it doesn't have from places it shouldn't be pulling. So I'm like, okay, now my ass is bigger. Great, hallelujah. And at the same time, like, I'm heavier and I have to dress for this now. Like, it's so interesting that it's actually a mark of health.
Absolutely. Well, so my husband and I, when we went to Puerto Rico to visit family a few years ago, we went into a store and I was like, oh, what is this magic? And he's like, what are you talking about? I was like, they actually make jeans for somebody who has an ass like I have.
Well, hello. Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, like this was just like common knowledge. Like he just looked at me like I had five heads, and I was like, no, you have no idea how magical this is that I can wear pants that don't gap in the back and actually like fit my ass and make me feel good about how I look in my clothes. And one of the most beautiful things about going to Puerto Rico, I mean, aside from the people, the food, the music, the clear water, like, hello, Caribbean, thank you, but is the fact that women have a completely different sense of body image.
I feel like that's
Completely.
everywhere outside of the United States have
Mhm.
ever been. Like women are actually encouraged to take up space, and what men like, I don't even know if men here view what has been put out as the beauty standard as beautiful. You know what I mean? Like, but men in other countries don't find it attractive when women are too lean.
No.
Not that we're
Yes.
basing looks on what men think. It's just, it's interesting to see culturally where
Yes.
we are versus where other countries sit.
That my heavier set frame gets catcalled by Italian men. Yes.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
like that was so surreal for me. I went to an international show in a previous job long before I started doing what I'm doing now. But I mean, again, if 8 was my smallest, I tended to hover around 10, 12, right?
Right.
And so still not small in the grand scheme of things. And
But
I
what
couldn't
is
believe it.
small, though?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, what is small, and how do we actually get our sizing, and what measurements is it based on, and who decided? Like, I just have so many questions for, the designer of these clothes at this point. Like, who, what, when, where, why? Like, you understand what you're contributing to, versus yeah, all from a pair of pants, an American Eagle, in a dressing room where I was like, what the fuck is going on in my head?
Well, but it's such an important thing to talk about, though, because we all have these internal conversations with ourselves and we all scrutinize something in the mirror. Like one of my close girlfriends, I would give appendages to look like this woman.
Mhm.
She's about my height, but she is like curvy in all the right places. She has like muscled arms. She's a couple years older than me. So, like, it's like, this is where I want my perimenopause to look like, right? And she's absolutely stunning. And
Mhm.
I said something to her a little while ago about like, you look friggin' banging today.
Mhm.
And I love your outfit, but like, I would kill for your arms, is what I said to her. And she just scoffed at me and she goes, what, my man arms? Like, we have
Oh my God.
really fucked up, distorted senses of what we see in the mirror.
Uh-huh.
I was like, girl, I would literally give a leg and an arm and something else to have arms that look like yours. And she was like, oh, my man arms. I was like, no, your
Yeah.
arms are awesome. I aspire my arms to look like that.
Yeah.
Even when I lift, my endomorphic body frame will put muscle on and I could deadlift a truck. But
Yeah.
like, I just look thick and blocky. I never, ever have definition.
And I don't build. So like I'll get toned, but I won't build because I sit more in the vata,
Yep.
right? More in the air, constitution elementally of things. So like I can lean and I can tone, but I will always be the girl that walks around in rain boots that has no calf to fill them.
And I am the kapha
Yep. Yep.
that looks like a boulder rolling downhill. I said Brunhilde, guys, like
Yeah.
for real, like this is my body frame. But I've always had like a bigger structure.
Yeah.
And, but I look at my grandmother who had that larger structure. I'm built just like her.
Mhm.
And she lived until she was 93.
I mean, there's
So,
something to
like,
be said about being resourced. And I think that's for me, I finally came back to that place because I'd be lying if I said, well, I'm not going to eat dinner tonight. Right. Or like, well, I need to go home and I need to like work out. Like, I'd be lying if I said those thoughts didn't cross my mind. Right. along with the like, have you let yourself go? And it's like one of those, like, are you kidding me? Like, you have abs. Like, what are you not seeing? It's so interesting how that dysmorphic
Mhm.
element comes in, but I think what I finally landed on was one of the most radical things we can do. And this comes with maturity, in my opinion. Like, I
Mhm.
know I'm hitting a point of really beautiful internal reflection when I can get myself back to this point, is let ourselves exist fully. And that means loving the version of ourself that shows up, knowing that she got here because of all of the things that you didn't know you needed to do or perhaps refused to do in prior years to prioritize other things. Like, I am prioritizing my health. I am
Mhm.
prioritizing my happiness. I am prioritizing my ability to take up space in a world that has always encouraged me to be much smaller than I actually am. I don't come from little people, too. My dad's 6'5".
Mhm.
All of my siblings tower over me. I'm the tiny one of the family, 6 plus. So like when I look at everybody, my mom's tiny. She's 5'2". Like, so like I sit somewhere in there. I'm like, cool. So I didn't get the boobs or the height. Thanks, guys. Like, I get first kid really was the guinea pig. Cheers, like, but it's like, Taylor, stop apologizing for being here. Stop trying to make yourself more palatable for some standard that doesn't even apply to you. Stop making the way that you look more digestible according to who and to what,
Mhm.
like more whatever version the world says we should be. Like, and that's just it. I think it's not until this chapter of life we as women finally go, well, I've been that version and that version, and now I'm exploring this version and getting comfortable with her. And everything about her is uncomfortable because she bucks every system
Mhm.
put in place.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, but that's part of it. You're bucking a system that was put in place. Who put that in place?
Men.
Right? And the male gaze. I mean, you see it even in how they film things, like the perspective of the camera. This is something that I did in my master's education, is like the female gaze looks up, the male gaze looks down. So you create, even if the female actress towers over Tom Cruise, they will make the camera angle, like, he's just an example because I know he's a
Smaller.
shorter. If he has had co-stars that are taller than him, they will stand him on something or they will turn the camera angle to make him look taller.
As I roll my eyes.
But it's the male gaze versus the female gaze, right? And so if we all get to a place where you're never going to be completely removed, and I think this is why this conversation is really important, is Taylor and I have done a lot of internal work to get to where we are.
So much.
Right? Like Taylor, I know it's exhausting some days, but like Taylor and I have done so much work to get to where we are. And we have gotten to a point where we've made peace with a lot of things that we've been taught that are actually bullshit. But we both, through this conversation, have highlighted the fact that our societal socialization still exists in part of the onboard programming, right? So this is going to be true for all of you as well, that there are going to be days where you're going to be listening to the voice in your head from a patriarchal conditioning place. And then there's going to be days that you're going to look at yourself and be like, fuck that noise. I look great and I don't give a shit who thinks I look great. And that is where you find your turn on, ladies. Like when you find that and harness that energy, you are an unstoppable force of frigging nature.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, but like I'm good with where I'm at. Buy the size 10 pants. I think that's just what I want to say to anyone listening who's like been in either one of our shoes where it's like, oh, well, my smallest was this and this. And to Adrian's point, I have everything from a small to a large in my closet.
Yep, me
And
too.
brand dependent, right? It really depends on where I'm shopping, but they all fit and they all fit beautifully. So if the size 10 jeans are going to look better, what does the 10 actually represent to me?
Well, and that's it. And I was thinking as you were talking about, I've been a 2, I've been a 4, I've been, I was thinking about the fact that like when I was younger, I felt like people announced their clothing sizes a lot
Oh,
more.
yeah.
And now we just dress for the body. Like at this point, because I'm in my early 40s. So like I don't feel like people talk about the size. They'll talk about the deal. I got this for $15 at TJ Maxx. Like They'll
Yeah.
talk about the deal, but they don't talk about the size as much. So what the fuck does the size matter?
It doesn't. It doesn't mean that it's not going to trip a wire, but anything that's
Yes.
coming, we talked about this in the last episode, anything that's being brought forth or forward in your sphere of awareness just wants to be integrated. Your field operates off of democracy. I have a mentor that says that consistently. So when these thoughts bubble up, it's like it just wants to be acknowledged, to be integrated. And can you meet that thought or that part of yourself with the version of you today that's like, hey, I see you. And like, I love you. We're good right where we're at.
Yeah. And I think that's so important because we often will shame ourselves for having those thoughts bubble up.
Yeah.
And then we go into that shame and guilt spiral.
Non-beneficial spirits. That's what they're known in quantum physics, by the way. Shame, guilt. Okay. What's another one? Disappointment, frustration.
Is fear in that category?
Oh, yeah. Non-beneficial spirits, right?
Yep.
That attach to you and drain your life force.
How many of you can resonate with that? Go ahead.
Or let the spirit, the non-beneficial spirit drive your behavior on a daily. Like then you're not in the driver's seat. This non-beneficial entity is. Think about how much that sucks off of you, essentially. Yeah.
Absolutely. So like it started with pants, but look how deep this theme goes. And, inside of our minds, we are meaner to ourselves than anyone else ever could be.
Yeah.
And that is so true for so freaking many of us.
I think that's a really good point to make too, in the sense of like when you're dealing with somebody, and this is not part of the conversation, Adrian just sparked a thought too. Like when you're dealing with somebody who is being unkind to you in any capacity, just remember that 9 times out of 10, it's just a projection of something that exists within them. Right. It's just a projection of something that exists within them. And you're a ripe canvas for its display. It really doesn't have anything to do with you.
And I'm so glad you said that because like this is where like judgment and comparison come in. And those are spirits. Yeah, but they're means of control.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they're a means to keep you small.
They're effective. Now, aren't they?
Very, very effective.
Yeah. I think what I would leave you with is this: as we walk into the holiday season, literally, where so many people, I would say predominantly women, I can't speak for men, right? But I can certainly speak for women. So many women struggle with showing up. So many women struggle with being present in the moment with their people. So many women struggle with actually celebrating whatever it is they're celebrating because of all these social conditionings that exist, right, as tabs in our head and as unspoken expectations in the collective that we all exist in. But you don't owe anybody a smaller version of yourself, not in your body, not in your energy, not in your dreams. You're allowed to take up space. And I think it is more important to acknowledge and honor that we were all meant to. And buy the size 10 pants.
Buy the pants. If they look good on you and they feel good on you and you see yourself smile in the mirror, buy the pants.
And also, if this ever makes it across the desk of somebody who does designing, do better. Okay. And if this ever makes it across the desk or into the earbuds of somebody who designs dressing rooms, what the fuck, do better. Is it a marketing tact? Like, I don't feel good in those things. If you want me to buy your shit, like, make sure I feel good in those things.
Right. Sister speaks for me.
What the fuck? Walk out of here. I'm like, what? Who chose this lighting and who decided that I needed to be like 3 inches away from the mirror that I'm standing in front of? And I'm on day 5 and wow, I can see that written all over my body. I'm like, who thought this whole thing through? A man. Sorry. Oh my God. I love men. Really, I love the ween. Don't get me wrong. I love the ween. But sometimes it's like, I just said that on my podcast. I love the ween. I think it's time for me to stop talking.
And on that note, thank you for joining us for another episode of Holy Shift. You're definitely going to want to make sure to come back for next time.
Until next time, guys, stay well.